In this video, we want to show how you can configure ExpertMart so that for returns you require the original sales invoice, and then you use that sales invoice to look up the sale and know how to make the return correctly. What am I referring to? Well, let me get started here and I'll tell what we're referring to as we go along. But we go to Configure, Station Configure, and under Station Configure on the left side we have Returns, and on the left side of Returns the third option on the block says on return invoices reference refers to original sales invoice. So if we have clicked that in our configuration, then we would restart ExpertMart, and then when we go to Transactions Returns, in the reference field, which is right down here, we type in the they would bring in their original sales ticket or receipt, sales receipt, and we would type in here that number. And I'm just going to use an example here: 10 million 014. So I type in the number and do enter, and it goes into the database. And in this case, this sales is from this sales receipt is from this actual store. It goes in its database, picks up that sales receipt, and shows it to us here. And in that case, we could see if any of the items were discounted, because they might. It's very common to give a discount, maybe 50% off the second item when you buy two. And so if they want to return for cash either one of those items, it would affect the amount that we want to give them back in cash. So what we could do here, it's putting all the items that were on the invoice as a return with the same prices and the same discounts. So having done that, then we would again choose what they're going to return here. If, for example, they were not returning this one, we could put 0 quantity, or we could even just delete that line and say they're not returning that. I guess it doesn't let you delete the line, but you can put 0 quantities. And then they return exactly what they want to return. And possibly the best thing to do if they have a BOGO or buy one get one off is do a return on the whole thing and then charge them for if they're going to keep one of those items, the correct price for that one item. So that is pretty simple and straightforward. Again, just to recap, in the reference field we put in the invoice number, and it goes out and looks up that invoice or sales receipt and puts it on the screen. Now, as I mentioned, that is doing that only for receipts in that same store, the same store's database. We have the option in ExpertMart, if we come along here to configure, and we have servers, we have an option that's called a returns server. Now, this requires to run this on your main office computer, your main server computer. You would run a program, which is actually a live server. And you're going to use a port and everything that requires you to have where the stores can have the IP address directly to a computer at the main office. Some people already have their FTP server set up so that at the main office, but you would have to open a different port. And in that case, what the system does, again, if we go to Transactions Returns, is it would look at when we do a sales invoice. Say this is the store that starts in the store number 1, but say if we had an invoice that was from store 3, and so we went 30000001, it would detect, and in this case it's going to give an error because I don't have that server running. It says I cannot find that invoice. But if we had the server running, then it would go out and go to that main server and request to pull back the receipt from that main server, so you could see the same thing even if it had been bought in a different store. But again, that requires some special configuration and for that server to be running at the main. So I think that at least gives a great introduction to this subject, and obviously you want to contact tech support if you want to implement this and have any further questions or issues to look at, especially for the live return server. Thank you very much.